video, I'm going to show you guys how to solve test 5B. Starting with question 1, it says list the following properties of the sine function y equals cosine x. Well, we've graphed y equals cosine x. Alright, we've done this previously and we know the shape of the cosine curve. We know how high it goes. We know that it starts at 1, intercepts, the minimum is -1. So we actually know that the period goes from 0 to 2 pi. We know that the frequency is 1 over the period. And we know that the amplitude is 1 because it starts at 0, goes all the way up to 1, top and bottom. So this is information we knew before. So to answer this question, all you have to say the period is 2 pi, the amplitude is 1, and the frequency is 1 over 2 pi. And you have to make sure that that pi is in the denominator, otherwise it will be marked wrong. The next question is asking you information about y equals tan x. We sketched y equals tan x in class, and we know that it has this type of pattern, that it has left and right asymptotes at negative pi halves and pi halves. And we know that this distance right here, which is the period, is pi. So with all of this information, in order for us to answer the questions over here, what is the period of the tan function? The period is pi. The left asymptote is negative pi over 2, and the right asymptote is pi over 2. The next question, they want you to write a sine function that has this form, y equals a sine bx. So you need to find a and you need to find b. And to model the behavior of the sine wave, you know that the frequency is 150, the amplitude is 3, and you know that it's reflected on the x-axis. Alright, so you know that the function is going to be y equals a sine bx. We know that a is the amplitude, b is 2 pi times the frequency. We know the amplitude is 3, the frequency 150. Reflected means that you have a negative leading coefficient. So following with this, then we can find a. A would be 3. B would be 2 pi times the frequency, which is 150. So you get 300 pi. Okay? And then you write the function y equals, we know it's negative because it's got a negative leading coefficient. A, the value of a is 3, sine b times x. What is b? B is 300 pi x. And that would be the answer. So on the test, you would write y equals -3 sine 300x, 300 pi x. There you go. For the next question, they want you to find the values of a, b, and c for a sine function that has this model. Now notice this is more expanded. This one includes a phase shift. You want to model the initial behavior. You know your frequency, you know the amplitude, and you know the phase shift. This one is not reflected on the x-axis, so the leading coefficient is going to be positive. So on this problem, we know the general form of the equation. We know that a is the amplitude, b is 2 pi times the frequency, c is negative b times the phase shift, and we know the individual values. So now we just have to solve them. So a would be whatever the amplitude is, which is 1/3. B would be 2 pi times the frequency being 340. And you get 680 pi. And then C would be negative B times the phase. Well, negative, what is B? 680 pi. What's the phase? 1/4. And you multiply all of that together and you get -170 pi. So on the test, you would say that A is 1/3, B is 680 pi, and C is -170 pi. Right, the next question, it gives you this function, and they want you to find the amplitude, the period, frequency, phase shift, and vertical shift. So with this problem, out of focus, here we go. With this problem, the amplitude would be simple. The amplitude would be the absolute value of this number. It happens to be positive, so you're going to write a positive number. The amplitude will never be negative. I am going to say that again. The amplitude will never be negative. If this had been -2, the answer would still be a +2. The amplitude is the absolute value of the leading coefficient. To find the period, you do 2 pi over b. B happens to be 3, right? This one's A, this one's C, and that's D. Okay? So 2 pi over B, B is 3, and 2/3 doesn't reduce, so it's just 2 pi over 3. The frequency is 1 over this number, or B over 2 pi. That's easier in this problem. So you just have to say, what is B? B is 3. What is 2? 2 pi, and you just put 2 pi. 3 over 2 pi. Notice the location of the pi. The pi is in the denominator when it comes to the frequency, because the 2 pi is in the bottom. Everywhere else, my pi is numerator. Okay? Another way of writing this number, the period, and I'm working with the period because it's numerator, you can say this. This implies that the pi is in the numerator. If you write 3 over 2 pi, this is wrong, because you're saying pi is in the numerator when it's supposed to be in the denominator. So if you write it like this, it is incorrect. 3 over 2 pi for the frequency. For the phase shift, it's going to be -c over the absolute value of b. So negative. Notice that I'm not forgetting my negative sign. The c value. C is -7 pi over 3. And I'm dividing this by b. B is 3. Alright, so what I'm going to do is keep, change, flip. -7 pi over 3 stays the same because that's the numerator. I'm going to multiply instead of dividing, and I'm going to flip the 3. What's the flip of the 3? Third. So it's -7 pi over 9. And the vertical shift is the easiest. The d value is -2, so the vertical shift is -2. And this is how I would report the answers. Alright, the last problem on the first page is this one, and they want you to find the same information. Alright, well, we already said the amplitude is going to be the absolute value of the leading coefficient. The leading coefficient is 3 over 5. Once again, it's positive, but even if it was negative, this answer over here would still be positive. The amplitude will never be negative. The amplitude will never be negative. Period is going to be 2 pi over b. 2 pi over b is 1/2. That's the b value right there. Once again, keep, change, flip. We're going to keep the numerator. We're going to multiply instead of dividing, and we're going to flip the denominator. What's the flip of 1/2? 2 over 1, so you get 4 pi. So the answer is 4 pi. Frequency is b over 2 pi. B is 1/2 over 2 pi. Like I said in class, this is the only number that you don't have to simplify the frequency. So 1/2 over 2 pi is fine. Or 1 over 4 pi. That would also be acceptable. Okay. Phase. The phase is -c over b. Negative. I never forget the negative sign. C is 3 pi over 7, actually. Sorry, I thought it was a 2. It's a 7. Alright, so negative from here. C is 3 pi over 7. And we're going to divide this by the b value. The b value is 1/2. Alright, so it looks messy, but it's not. Keep, change, flip. Keep the numerator. Minus 3 pi over 7. Multiply. And then flip the denominator. What's the flip of 1/2? 2 over 1. So negative 3 times 2 is 6 pi over 7. So the phase shift would be negative 6 pi over 7. And the vertical shift is the easiest one. The D value is negative 44, so the vertical shift is negative 44. So how would I expect the answers to be turned in? I would expect the answers to be turned in like this.